You're watching TAG TV.
Good evening. Welcome to South Asia Newsline. I'm Surabhi Sharma. Here are the top stories we are tracking for you on Thursday, the 28th of September. Indian Foreign Minister to meet Pakistani counterpart in New York. Former Pakistani Premier Nawaz Sharif released from prison. An Afghan poll body warns candidates against disrupting elections. And now for all the details, India's Foreign Ministry on Thursday confirmed that Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj will meet her Pakistani counterpart during the United Nations General Assembly in New York next week. The ministry said this does not imply a resumption of dialogue between the two nations and said it is just a meeting.
India's Foreign Ministry on Thursday confirmed that India's Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj will be meeting her Pakistani counterpart Shah Mahmood Qureshi on the sidelines of the upcoming United Nations General Assembly in New York. The acceptance of the meeting comes hours after a letter by Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan for Prime Minister Narendra Modi was reported. In the letter, Pakistani Premier had called for a meeting between the foreign ministers of the two countries to improve ties between the neighbouring countries.
I can confirm that on the request of the Pakistani side, a meeting between External Affairs Minister and Pakistani Foreign Minister will take place on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly at a mutually convenient date and time.
Ravish Kumar, however, said this is just a meeting, not talks or resumption of dialogue. Ties have been particularly tense between India and Pakistan since the 2008 attacks in Mumbai, which are blamed on Pakistan-based militants.
In news from Pakistan, former Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif and his daughter Maryam Nawaz were released from jail late on Wednesday after a court suspended their prison sentence over the purchase of upscale apartments in London. Scores of supporters gathered outside the prison, showering Sharif's car with rose petals as he was freed from the jail in the garrison city of Rawalpindi. Pakistani authorities released former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif and his daughter Maryam Nawaz from jail late on Wednesday after a court suspended their prison sentences over the purchase of upscale apartments in London. Hundreds of supporters who had gathered outside the prison showered Sharif's car with rose petals after he was freed from the jail in the garrison city of Rawalpindi. Earlier in the day, Islamabad High Court suspended Sharif's 10-year jail, his daughter's 7-year and his son-in-law's 1-year sentences. The convictions are still under appeal with the same court, but the judge said they should be freed immediately while the case continues.
हम सब वर्कर बहुत खुश हैं और मियां साहब को यकीन दिलाते हैं कि इंशाअल्लाह ताला हर कदम पर उनका साथ देंगे। मियां नवाज शरीफ जिंदाबाद, मियां नवाज शरीफ।
Sharif was ousted and disqualified from holding office by the Supreme Court in July 2017 and jailed earlier this year in absentia. He was addressed on July 13th upon returning from London. The case against Sharif stemmed from 2016 Panama Papers revelations that showed his family owned the London apartments through offshore companies. Moving on, European academics and experts on Wednesday targeted Pakistan for sponsoring terrorism while highlighting the factual and analytical errors in the recent UN report on Jammu and Kashmir in Geneva. They said the conflict in Kashmir was Pakistan's proxy war.
European academics and experts on Wednesday targeted Pakistan for sponsoring terrorism while highlighting the factual and analytical errors in the report on Jammu and Kashmir by the United Nations Office of High Commissioner of Human Rights in Geneva. Speaking at an event during the ongoing UN HRC session, Paul Stott, a research fellow at the European Foundation for South Asian Studies or EFSAS, discussed a range of issues primarily focusing on Pakistan's strategic interest and flaws in the recent report on Jammu and Kashmir. He stressed that the conflict in Kashmir was Pakistan's proxy war and this should have been identified as such, whereas the report recommendations avoid this subject.
There was a lot of errors in the report, particularly historically, as he didn't really seem to have grasped that many of the terrorist organisations operating in Indian Kashmir are really proxy organisations for the Pakistan state.
That Pakistan and the military establishment in Pakistan is very powerful. The military establishment pursues a strategy of supporting terrorist organizations and afterwards calling them non-state actors in order to get strategic depth in India or in Afghanistan or even at other places, and they use these terrorists as proxies in Jammu and Kashmir.
The experts also highlighted that the report ironically referred to Pakistan-based terror groups Hizbul Mujahideen, Lashkar-e-Toiba and the Jaish-e-Mohammed as armed groups, which are designated as terrorist organizations by the United Nations.
In news from Afghanistan, Afghanistan's President Ashraf Ghani on Wednesday said his nation's as well as the region's stability was affected by transnational militant and criminal networks. Ghani made the comments while speaking at an event in New Delhi during his one-day visit to India. Afghan President Ashraf Ghani at an event in Indian capital New Delhi on Wednesday said his nation's as well as the region's stability was affected by transnational militant and criminal networks. The event during which Ghani made the comments was also attended by Indian Law Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad, Aviation Minister Suresh Prabhu and India's junior foreign ministers. The Afghan president arrived in New Delhi early Wednesday for a day-long visit to India.
Afghanistan, by networks of violence, transnational terrorist networks and transnational criminal networks, the only thing that is offered us is blood, destruction, and more destruction. We need to understand what is at stake today in Afghanistan. What is at stake is the stability of the region and the world.
Earlier in the day, Ghani also held a bilateral meeting with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. India has been one of Afghanistan's biggest allies in the war against Taliban, training thousands of security personnel. New Delhi has also played a significant role in the reconstruction and rehabilitation of Afghanistan. More on news from Afghanistan. Chief of Afghanistan's poll body has warned the candidates involved in the closure of its provincial offices that they will be disqualified if they continue to disrupt their work. The official expressed concern over deliberate disruption of the electoral process by some elements.
Chairman of Afghanistan's Independent Election Commission or IEC, Abdul Badi Sayed, on Wednesday warned candidates who have closed the doors of its provincial offices that they will be disqualified if they continue to disrupt the work of the poll body. Speaking at a national conference with civil society representatives and political parties, the IEC chief expressed concerns over the ongoing security challenges ahead of the elections. Sayed said the neighbouring countries, militant groups, Taliban and Islamic State, including some lawmakers, are deliberately disrupting the electoral process.
حرکتایی که وجود داره کمیسیون مصمم است که اونم ولایتی که در اونجا دروازه ما بسته میمونه یا اینا کوشش میکنه که دروازه کمیسیون ما را بسته کنه و در ولایت انتخابات به سرنوشت انتخابات غزلی مواجه خواهد شد و کسایی که خودشان در فهرست هستند این هم احتمال داره که اونا از لیست ما حذف خواهد شد.
Meanwhile, the chairman of the Independent Electoral Complaints Commission called on government leadership to take tough action against those who are trying to derail the poll process. This comes after a number of Afghanistan's major political parties and movements on Tuesday accused the government of planning massive fraud and vote rigging in the upcoming parliamentary election scheduled for October 20th.
Moving on to news from Nepal, Nepal's Rashtriya Janata Party on Wednesday boycotted the celebrations of Constitution Day and held protest rallies, claiming the government has failed to address the rights of Madhesis and other indigenous groups in the country. Madhesis are the inhabitants of the southern Terai region in Nepal, who are mostly of Indian origin.
The Madhes-based Rashtriya Janata Party Nepal or RJPN on Wednesday observed a blackout to boycott the celebrations of Constitution Day in the Himalayan nation. The party took to the streets and carried out protest rallies saying the government has failed to address the rights of Madhesis and indigenous communities in the country. Leader of the RJPN, Mahant Thakur, on the occasion said the party had fought for complete democracy in the past and is still struggling for it.
हम लोगों ने पूर्ण लोकतंत्र के लिए संघर्ष किया था, लेकिन वैसा जो है अभी क्या अवस्था जो है वैसा नहीं दिखाई पड़ता है। इसलिए अभी भी हम लोग जो हैं अपने आप को संघर्ष में पाते हैं।
The major demands of the RJPN include amendment in the citizenship certificate and providing more rights to the provincial governments. The Madhesi party claims to represent the interests of inhabitants of the southern Terai region who are mostly of Indian origin and are called Madhesis.
The mouth-watering apples of India's northern Jammu and Kashmir province are ready to hit the markets as the production of the apples has boomed this year. The growers are confident that they will get good returns from their bumper crop. The production of apples in northern India's Kashmir province has witnessed an ample rise this year and are ready to hit the markets, with growers expecting good returns. Apples are harvested, graded and packed in boxes according to their size and quality for selling them in different markets in the country and outside. Jammu and Kashmir is India's largest apple-producing province, with Shopian, Baramulla and Ganderbal districts famous for their high-quality apples.
1,45,000 हेक्टेयर्स जो हैं वो सेब के अंडर है यहाँ पे। मैं कश्मीर प्रोविंस की बात कर रहा हूँ, तो उस हिसाब से मुझे लगता है कि जो हमारी प्रोडक्शन है 18 लाख मेट्रिक टन से तजावुज़ कर जाएगी।
The picturesque Himalayan region of Kashmir is famous for its apples, where tens of thousands of people are involved in the production of the fruit. Kashmiri apples are in great demand in domestic as well as international market due to their quality and taste. Buddhist monks and nuns hailing from different parts of the country and abroad prayed for world peace and prosperity during an event held in India's northern Ladakh region recently. People donated food and monastic requisites to monks and nuns on the occasion.
Over 2,000 Buddhist monks and nuns from different monasteries gathered in India's hill town of Ladakh, along with several devotees, for an event collecting Sanghadana, meaning charity for the community of monks. The auspicious event for offering food and monastic requisites to monks and nuns was organized by the Mahabodhi International Meditation Center in Ladakh with the support of Buddhist devotees from Taiwan. During the event, the monks and the nuns prayed for world peace and prosperity. Some people collected monastic fundamentals and donated them to monks on the occasion.
Sanghadana is this occasion, this kind of activity is quite meaningful to Sangha, also supporting and encouraging, and for devotees, I think it's inspiring.
The historic event witnessed the participation of monks and nuns from different parts of the country and other Buddhist nations including Thailand, Burma, Taiwan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal and Bhutan.
Well, that's the way it was in South Asia this evening. Before we conclude the top stories once again. Indian Foreign Minister to meet Pakistani counterpart in New York. Former Pakistani Premier Nawaz Sharif released from prison. An Afghan poll body warns candidates against disrupting elections. Now our viewers can watch the show on SouthAsiaNewsline.com. You can also visit us on facebook.com/SAsia Newsline and follow us on Twitter @SAsia Newsline. That's all in tonight's edition. We will see you same time tomorrow. Good night.